Father James here, Father Hank on
Yep.
Shybro. I'm still cracking walnuts, so if you hear chunking in the background, that's walnuts being cracked, like that.
Don't be alarmed.
Ooh, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
Something I learned from my grandfather.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we grew up. Did you grow up with, like, cracking
No.
walnuts?
No, it really wasn't until here that I actually ever cracked a walnut.
Really? Yeah, there's an art so that you don't just, like, crush the entire thing and have, like, tiny little pieces. You gotta kind of, like, gently crush the shell.
So have you ever used a nutcracker?
Well, this thing.
Oh.
You mean like the plate, like those things?
Like the puppet thing.
The puppet
wood
thing? I don't know if I
crack
have.
walnuts or
They're more decorative. I don't know if they
That's true.
actually.
actually do?
I'd be afraid to break one.
Maybe at one point they did.
This is like the silver, like,
Oh yeah.
prong thingy. Yeah, you got macadamia nuts.
Yeah.
You got
We-
hazelnuts. You got almonds.
We would use the prong thing
Pecans.
for pistachios growing up. Just crack-
Pistachio. Oh, so you did crack nuts. Pistachios.
Yeah,
There you go.
pistachios.
Yeah.
Walnuts a little bit more intense.
Yeah, it's a little more old manish. That would be right up your alley.
There you go. With my record player.
And your shawl. Not your, the cardigan.
Cardigan.
That Father Hank
Don't
cardigan.
wear a shawl.
Yeah. Do you still have your cardigan?
I do.
That
Yeah.
Helen gave you?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're great in the wintertime in the chapel.
Yeah.
Little chapel cardigan.
So, by the way, folks, maybe you can help us. Sorry, I'm just swallowing here. Father Tim and Father Derek in Mary's Seat. So it's public now. Father Tim has been reassigned from Mary's Seat of Wisdom. He will be going to
UIC?
UIC to be a college campus minister with our friend Father Connor Danstrom. So they're going to be partners in crime.
Mm-hmm.
So Father Tim is leaving Mary's Seat, but he's still part of our group. So it's Father Hank, myself, Father Derek, and Father Tim and Estes. Father Derek, the pastor of Mary's Seat of Wisdom. We have this little like priestly fraternity thing doing. We have dinner every Saturday night. We call it the Lord's Day, and we have fraternal sharing every week. We're trying to do it every week now. Just how life is going, and we each have our podcasts. But now that Father Tim is leaving it was the Mary Seat podcast, so he wants
During
to,
quarantine.
yeah, they want to combine. So like the four of us now just do one podcast, which is pretty epic. But
It is.
so that's the good news. The bad news is,
They don't like the name or the platform of Shybro, which
Yeah.
is absurd because this is Chicago Brothers, and that's what we
so they want us to
are.
change the name. We can't use Shybro anymore. Theirs is Mary Seat Quarantine, which is just dumb. You know, like obviously we're not going to use that.
It's
I'm
not
I'm going to St.
universal,
Paul
but Shybro
Cross.
is universal. And that logo is awesome.
Father Hank drew that logo.
No bias.
So if you can think of a good name for our podcast, so the four of us together, the four of us might not always be on, but maybe sometimes it's two, sometimes it's three.
JT and DH.
Justin Taylor Thomas,
Ah.
JTT. So that will be one topic later, the name. Something that's catchy,
Yeah.
spiritual maybe.
Spiritual, priestly, Chicago. Like Shybro.
Yeah. Let's just talk about that though. We're going to, the 2x2, you mentioned at the end of the last podcast on silence about how one of their downfalls is they get separated, the
Yeah.
two young Jesuits. They go to Japan to evangelize, but also to find their superior who's renounced the faith to see if it's true and maybe to save him, rescue him. So they're working together in the mission, and which is interesting in the story too, by the way. They say it's only when they're arrested that they actually begin to exercise their ministry. When they're hiding, they're like hiding in caves and they're not able to like go out fully with the people. Once they're arrested, they're able to minister to the other Christians in the prison camps and kind of go speak more freely. But anyways, they get separated. And you were saying that's
Yeah, it's not a good look.
he gets into his head and
He gets into his head, right? So, biblically founded, there's within the Jewish tradition and custom of law, you need two witnesses to affirm the truth. You see this with, I think it's the prophet Daniel with the whole Susanna.
oh yeah, right, yeah, very good, yeah.
And then Jesus
Your
sends
fine lie
out,
has cost you your head.
That's right. Jesus sends out the disciples and the apostles 2 by 2, and also with Christ, he says, "Well, the Spirit will come and will also testify to me, and I testify to the Father, and the Father testifies to me." So there's that 2 by 2 as well. So for Adam Driver and Andrew Garfield are separated, but they really need each other to support each other's strengths and weaknesses. Because when they're isolated, that's when the enemy is at work, sowing doubt into their minds. Not only do they have the enemy working against, but they also have the Japanese Inquisitor that's trying to get them to apostatize. And unfortunately for Andrew Garfield's character, the Inquisitor does that through intellectually, right? Witnessing physical suffering of the Christians, but then intellectually, can you stand up for your faith? Can you articulate to me? You can't persuade me. And unfortunately, Andrew Garfield gets a little cocky with his, or arrogant, I would say, with his prowess as an intellectual or in his studies and stuff, to engage the Inquisitor. But ultimately, intellectually, what falls apart for Andrew Garfield is that, and for all of us as Catholics, we have to understand that Jesus doesn't take away our suffering, but he enters into it. And it's by the blood of the martyrs that the seeds of faith are sown, right? One of the first things that happens for the church after Pentecost is the martyrdom of Stephen. But there is, a surrendering to that suffering. What, kind of at a loss for words here.
No, you want a walnut here? Yeah,
yeah, it's all
that
brain
up.
food.
Yeah,
looks like cranium food.
Doesn't it look like it? Yeah, but
Does look like it.
No, it's interesting. It's why priests need to be together. Why everyone needs communion, and even married couples, and it might not even be with your spouse, but just someone to talk to.
Other couples, maybe.
Yeah, other couples or a good friend. Something's going on, just to bounce ideas off of. So like Father Hank was saying, that the Inquisitor, it's interesting. It's also portrayed like this in some other movies, like Inglourious Basterds, where the Inquisitor, they talk about him with this reputation, and you think he's just this brutally, big guy that's going to physically torture, because he's got all these people to recant, and he's been so successful in torturing people. And then you see the Inquisitor, like in Inglourious Basterds, the Nazi is this really suave, he's very sophisticated.
Gosh, what's his name? He's really good.
Yeah, played by whatever. The guy who's the villain in James Bond. So the Japanese Inquisitor, they're talking him up, you're talking him up, and you're like, man, is this just going to be this monster guy that brutally... No, he's this old, gentle man. He sits down and he talks face to face with Rodriguez, the Jesuit, and he subtly manipulates him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically saying, yeah, look, your Christian faith is true, but it's just not going to take root here in Japan. Mm-hmm. They have this line, Japan's a swamp. Your seed cannot take root in the swamp here.
Yeah.
So anyways, without having a companion, Rodriguez is kind of sucked into this, way of thinking that's, again, subtle and devious, and that's the enemy at work.
It is, and I think that the trick with the Inquisitor is that he starts playing on, apologetics with metaphors, right? The swamp and the seed. And Andrew Garfield, he tries to use the Inquisitor's language through that metaphor to defend the faith and stuff. But ultimately, that's just taking away from Andrew Garfield's, at least core knowledge of the faith. And I think ironically with the title of the film is that he should imitate Christ when he is before King Herod. He's silent.
Yes, interesting. I didn't pick that up. That's really good. Ooh, ooh.
Right, because in that moment, in that moment, Andrew Garfield, I think he's convinced that he could turn the mind of the Inquisitor. That's wrong. The Inquisitor is obviously closed off to God, just like King Herod was.
Right.
So he doesn't receive an answer. And same when he encounters his former teacher, or the teacher, his mind is gone, and he can't. One conversation with his teacher is not going to win him back. His heart is closed, and Jesus experiences that too in his ministry when he returns home, and the people just see him as the son of Joseph or the son of a carpenter. Their hearts are closed off because they say, "Oh, we already know who this is. He's not going to tell us anything."
He leaves Nazareth.
Right. He's not able to perform any miracles. See, that's the humility of God.
He shakes the dust from his feet
everything, yeah.
on some other towns. That, yeah, you can't win every battle, right?
No, and you
But-
can't force it either.
But we're human. We don't know that necessarily. Garfield Rodriguez character didn't know that. But that's why you need companionship
right,
to kind of talk some sense into you. Like, hey,
right,
I'm struggling with this, or like my wife did that, or I'm thinking about firing this person in the parish, and
Yeah.
no, hey, don't do that, or did you think about this? Did you think about that? Kind of gets you out of your head.
right.
We're flawed. We need other people are wise, just like we can offer our wisdom to other people. So
Saint Therese experienced that too in the convent. She said whenever she felt like something was doubting or struggling or something, she would just bring it to the light by telling her superior.
Very good.
Just to talk about it, just to get it off your chest.
Speaking of the Jesuits, that's what St. Ignatius of Loyola says, right? The enemy's main tactic is to try to keep things hidden in the dark. If it's in the dark, if it's not brought to the light, if it's kept secret, it can fester and lead to some sin. So
Yeah.
the need for spiritual friendships, for companions,
Vulnerability.
2 by 2.
Yeah.
Amen.
Amen.